All right, it's 5 p.m. Nigeria time, and I think it's about midday in the US or North America. So we would like to start uh, as we await more people to join us. We'll go through the basic, background information before we get the guest speaker to commence his presentation. My name is Musa Rabiu, and I'm the Executive Secretary of People Expertise and Excellence Foundation, PEF. Uh, PEEF has been responsible for organizing the PEEF virtual talk for the past 3 to 4 years now, and we have always taken on topics that are vital to the economic growth and development of Nigeria. PEEF itself comprises of professionals across various disciplines, uh, many of whom are subject matter experts from engineering to legal to human resource management to economists, you name them. We have them in PEEF. So today we are pleased that the topic that we have chosen is critical to the state of our nation, Nigeria, and I think by extension, Africa. The focus is on strategies for curbing Nigeria's contemporary security dilemma. And this will be, facilitated by a distinguished personality, a former director of DSS, whom I'm going to introduce shortly. The PEEF series, PVT series is cost-free, so it's PEEF own contribution to the social dialogue and the promotion of good governance in Nigeria. A bit about the topic. Nigeria's contemporary security dilemma is characterized by various challenges, including insurgency, militancy, kidnapping, armed robbery, and other sectarian conflicts in different parts of the country. Now, to address these issues, the country needs to implement comprehensive national security strategy that integrates economic power, diplomacy, military, and political factors. This strategy, we hope, and we're going to hear more from our guest speaker today, should focus on building a strong armed force, strengthening security sector reforms, as well as fostering partnership with other nations, especially in the ECOWAS sub-region. Additionally, addressing issues of corruption, improving governance in terms of resource management, as well as promoting sustainable economic development, which are crucial in mitigating the security challenges. So that gives us an idea of how important the topic for this PEEF virtual talk is. And we should be looking forward to hearing more from the expert, Barrister Mike Ejiofor, shortly. Let me give you a background, his profile of Barrister Ejiofor. If you look at the screen, I hope you can see the screen. I won't be reading everything line by line, but you can also take a look. Barrister Mike Ejiofor, FSI, PNM, KSGI, is the chairman and CEO of Apex Safety and Security Consultants Limited in Abuja. He is also the president of the Alumni Association of National Institute of Security Studies. Very experienced in security intelligence and consulting within the security industry. He joined the Nigerian Police Force 1st October 1975. where he later transferred to the Nigerian Security Organization, NSO, that later became the State Security Service, SSS. While in service, he held several command positions, including Security Intelligence Officer, Principal Security Officer Operations, Assistant Director Special Operations, National Headquarters, SSS. And between 1999 and 2010, he served as the State Director of Security, SDS in Enugu and many other states. He retired in 2010 after 35 years of meritorious service. Now, other positions that he held include the Deputy Commandant Academics, Assistant Director Training, Deputy Commandant Academics, Assistant Director Anti-Terrorism, SSS Tax Group Commander, and many others. It's indeed a pleasure to have Barrister Mike Ejiofor with us. He's very experienced and is the best person to facilitate this session today. Now, a few house rules for us to manage our time and participation. This is a 1-hour program. We started at 5 dots, so we intend to close at 6 p.m. dots, Nigerian time. We're going to use 5 minutes to also wrap up the session. The guest speaker will have 35 minutes to engage us, present his material, and then we'll have 15 minutes to interact, entertain questions and comments. And please, the participants are encouraged to raise their hand electronically to request to speak, or they could use the chat box to post questions or make their comments. So once again, you are all welcome to this PVT session. And on this note, I would like to invite Barrister Mike Ejiofor to please, take on and deliver his presentation. Over to you, Mike.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for having me. It's my pleasure being here to present this paper. And I want to thank the organizer, of this event for extending this invitation to me. These are difficult times for our dear country. So discussions on security solutions are quite apt and should be therapeutic. This informs the choice of this topic. We hope that those in positions of leadership pay attention to the compass we provide through our collective voices and drive us to safety. The truth is that solutions don't lack in Nigeria. Everybody seems to know the problem, but how do we apply them? It will be self-defeat, illusion, or sheer wickedness for anyone to say that all is well with Nigeria. All the unfolding crises put together point to the fact that Nigeria appears to be in a security dilemma and unable to fix the security challenges plaguing it in the past 2 terminal decades. Rather, they are continuously being managed as in a terminal disease without any cure in sight except promises and dashed hopes. I think otherwise, though. How about you? I believe that if we tell ourselves the truth and operate from the prison of we can, as presented in this paper, Nigeria will be out of the crossroads. Before I proceed, there's a slight modification of the topic, strategy for curbing Nigeria's contemporary security dilemma. To Nigeria, I have rather security dilemma in Nigeria.
Mike, you are muted. Your mic is, please turn on your mic.
Sorry for the disturbance.
Okay.
Although there is no much difference, we all agree that we are actually in dilemma and there must be a way forward. On this note, the paper will examine the following. I have here introduction, evolution and state of Nigeria's security environment, how we got here, state responses, the effects of state response, the way forward, and conclusion. I'll rather talk to the paper because it's a little lengthy. Unfolding global events indicate that insecurity is neither abnormal nor strange to man and its environment. So all these challenges are not peculiar to Nigeria. It's a global issue. But since 2008, issues bordering on insecurity have been the topic of almost every formal and informal discourse in the country. Williams put it this way: insecurity, apart from being the fear of every discussion topic, where 2 or 3 Nigerians gather, several illegal armed groups, ethnic militia groups, religious fundamentalists, and fanatics are evidences of insecurity in Nigeria. These have given birth to a series of bombings, murder, arson, armed robbery, corruption, injustices that we hear every day. It is clear that these happenings are negatively affecting Nigeria politically, religiously, and culturally. Religious organizations and other humanitarian agencies are losing confidence in the law enforcement agencies. The picture of insecurity evident in today's Nigeria looks gloomy, especially when juxtaposed with the impunity of the perpetrators and the state responses. This ranges from faceless Boko Haram terrorists, the marauding, blood-sucking forest herdsmen, invading merciless bandits, confident armed robbers capable of engaging banks for hours despite security fortification, daredevil smugglers that can break through Nigerian border security measures, ritualists sniffing lives out of unsuspecting persons for power or wealth, advanced fee fraud, Yahoo boys, Yahoo plus, political gangsterism orchestrated by culpable politicians and the foot soldiers under their employ, sectarian and regional violent youth groups, varying categories of kidnap gangs, amongst many unimaginable acts of criminality. So Nigeria, we have a lot of criminalities in Nigeria. Like I said when I started, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. Now let's look at evolution. How did we get here? Nigeria is a product of, we all agree, Nigeria is a product of 1999 amalgamation. We have different cultural background, religious backgrounds, and yet we were lumped together as a country. As we examine here, security issues at a time in our history were local. It, however, got corrupted with cross-border crimes, especially with the advent of globalization, which ushered in borderlessness in our security atmosphere, easy entry and exit of the good, the bad, and the ugly. This also ushered in international protocols for security solutions. From the pre-Nigerian Civil War till about late 1990s, Nigeria could be adjudged relatively peaceful, apart from the armed robbery on the highways and crimes associated with people just coming out of it. So the criminality is segmented. We have pre, during, and after the independence in the 60s. From the pre-Nigerian Civil War till about late 90s, Nigeria could be adjudged relatively peaceful apart from armed robbery on the highways and crimes associated with people just coming out of the war. In the 60s, the country was faced with post-independence compromises and alignments to accommodate her diversities. Some of the inherent security threats included political crisis, corruption, ethnic bickering, which lack of proper management of the nascent independence snowballed into a civil war. Now, at the end of the Civil War in the 70s and 80s witnessed Post-war consequences of proliferation of arms, armed robbery, continued sectarian ethnic animosity and crisis, religious conflicts, increased official corruption, political violence, military dictatorship, and its associated complications, civil students' agitation. In the 90s, there were increased political instability, electoral violence worsened by the annulment of 1993 election allegedly won by MK Abiola by General Ibrahim Babangida, armed robbery, regional agitations, religious crisis, sanctions by Western countries, introductory kidnapping in the Niger Delta region, sectarian crisis, etc. We all witnessed within this period. Between 2008, insecurity rather than abate progressed geometrically, and this time with unusual tint. Kidnapping in the Niger Delta region reached its crescendo and waned. The period bettered the worst security plague in the history of Nigeria. Boko Haram, whose sole agenda is to Islamize the country, or at worst, carve out an Islamic caliphate in the northeast of Nigeria, and end Western education. Also within this period, while new and menaced threats such as kidnapping for ransom, banditry, invasion, sacking of communities, AK-47 carrying Fulani headers attacks, cattle rustling, mass protests against police brutality, you recall NSAS, nationwide looting of warehouses and vandalism of public/private sector properties. Ebola, COVID-19 pandemic emerged. Other ones like farmers, herders, clashes, religious intolerance, official corruption, electoral violence, sectarian regional agitations, armed robbery, youth unrest, food insecurity increased with much speed. Worthy of mention is the IPOB and the military, and in fact, Monday until recently, when the government, through the security agencies, reenacted its authority and hold on to the weekdays, even though there are still pockets of compliance to IPOB sit at home across the region. For fear people will just begin to sit at home. So these are the stages to which we find ourselves. The dilemma resides in the common denominator in these key criminal activities, which is the seeming defilement of all administered therapies. I believe that we are here because the right therapies may not have been administered, and if they have, then absolutely incorrectly. How we got here? All the factors that brought us to the present dilemma identified and discussed here are products of human acts of omission and or commission. And I think that this is heartwarming rather than heartbreaking, because it reminds us that the situation is man-made and therefore tractable through an intentional process. Amongst others, some of the roots that brought us here include corruption. There's no gainsaying that there's corruption in our country, which has led to underdevelopment. We have injustice and inequity. We also have electoral fraud, faulty leadership. Through this electoral fraud, our leaders who are emerged are not accountable to us, because the fact is that you get there and go to court, and the judiciary is not also helping matters. So we have this electoral fraud and faulty leadership selection. We also have poverty, there's general poverty. People are suffering. Then foreign and local subversive activities abound. Lack of strong institutions. This has tremendously resulted in the building of individuals that are far stronger than institutions. Unfortunately, rather than collapse those individuals for general good and unity of all, institutions are collapsed to the detriment of all. This has led to the policy somersaults as national issues revolve around each contemporary strongman's whims and caprices, which usually lead to resistance and sharp division among the general public. You can see what is going on in Rivers State because of the activities of some strong men not generally institutions. They will have religious and ethnic divide. This is playing a major adverse role in our country. Then, tribalism and nepotism. They are twin killers of peace and national unity. This is because by their character, they depict, I belong to my kinsmen and friends. And any country established upon this foundation can never know peace and national security. How has the state responded to all these issues? As is expected, no responsible government folds its hands and watch insecurity consume its people. This is because the welfare and security of citizens are the primary responsibilities of any responsible government. In the light of this assertion, we shall examine some efforts of the Nigerian government towards curbing insecurity in the country. A nationally acclaimed and recognized military. There's no point talking about, we have very strong military, strong security agencies that can take care of these problems, but are they effective? Then we look at international collaboration. The world has become a global village through the instrumentality of globalization. Therefore, events around the world are no longer local, but in one way or the other affect others within the global community. This explains why governments, including that of Nigeria, as a matter of necessity, collaborate internationally and are signatory to many treaties. We talk of training. Training is very key in our fight against this criminality. Then legislation. Quality legislation for the good governance of the country is the responsibility of the relevant arm of government. This is important to prevent anarchy. Quality leadership. Nigerians are very good followers. Just provide good leadership and Nigerians will follow. Now, what are the defects of the state responses? As discussed above, the state has responded to Nigeria's nationhood through governance administered by elected leaders or those that shot their ways to governance, as the case may be. However, objectives of the government are the same, which include, amongst others, to ensure the security and well-being of citizens. How much the successive Nigerian governments have worked, and this constitutes our discussion in this subtopic. A few examples will be considered. Poor leadership. Consecutive governments in Nigeria have continued to do the same things, the same way, and have not even been able to pull Nigeria most scholars can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Okay. Then we'll have a lack of political will in governance. Let me just rush through. This is the inability of a leader to take an uncommon decision that is not readily appreciated in the interest of the people he or she leads, while damning the associated backlash. For example, one of the reasons why our correctional facilities are overpopulated is because those that have been sentenced to death are still occupying spaces because governors are not disposed to signing the death sentences. Then lack of patriotism. How can you ask an angry man, a hungry man, to be patriotic? Nigeria should be patriotic, but then there's lack of patriotism because the government is also not discharging its responsibilities. They'll have sabotage, subversion by stakeholders. Then failure of authorities to pay attention to public outcry. People are crying that there's so much hunger in the town. What is the government doing about it? Government will tell you are bringing out palliatives, and yet you are yet to see those palliatives. The indiscipline among stakeholders. Discipline is a core value in governance. Therefore, insufficient or lack of it in governance has the capacity to breed and prolong unacceptable conduct, like corruption, conspiratorial attitude, and criminals, among others, thereby making nonsense of government efforts to mitigate insecurity. Now, having explained all this, what is the way forward? It is important to note that their both signs are ominous and not good indicators for any nation that wants to grow, succeed, and ensure the safety of our citizens. In the light of this, the following ways forward, both long and short term, are put up. Today's Nigerian administrators must brace up to harvest superior suggestions from various quarters and approach national issues differently with a view to avoiding the dangers ahead. Looking back at the operational definition of dilemma, we have a complex situation in our hands. Decisions must be made. Fortunately or unfortunately, they are tough decisions and may be unpalatable to many. Yet, it appears to be the only way, as recycling the former methods have repeatedly failed. This brings me to our first and very important way out: patriotism and political will. As earlier pointed out, leaders in Nigeria must first be total Nigerians, politically, economically, culturally, and so on. Leaders with dual allegiance may not be committed enough to fix Nigeria, as their stakes may not be strong. Accordingly, patriotism of leaders should be tested by the volume of stakes they have in Nigeria, which could affect how far such leader can go to make it work. You cannot tell Nigerians to be patriotic when you are not patriotic as a leader. Then we have to reduce corruption. Official corruption may not be completely eradicated, but it must be significantly reduced, especially among political office holders and supposed leaders. Technology-driven governance. In this dispensation, technology is the way to go. For example, wrong names and addresses that are non-existent, not verifiable, and misleading to investigators are used to register namesake and even bank records. Through technology, these data domiciled with NPC, banks, NIMC, network providers, immigration, Federal Road Safety Corps, among others, can be harmonized for effective, proactive, and counter-security operations. Motivation of field operatives. There's no gainsaying. Our security agencies and agents are being killed on daily basis. What are the motivation for them, for the parents, and for their dependents? Then we'll talk of effective town planning. It's appalling to know that some of the addresses provided during registration of BVN, GSM phone numbers, NIMSI, are fake and sometimes non-existent. This is a major setback to investigation, as the addresses pulled out in the process of investigation will lead to nobody and nowhere. This does not happen in advanced countries because town planning, which is a government responsibility, is in place. Now we'll talk of standardized problem-solving approach. Governments and insurgents should move away from fire brigade, haphazard, and incoherent processes of problem solving to a well-thought-out process that should comprise short, middle, and long-term strategic measures with the aim of not only combating present challenges, but futuristic ones. Reduction of military-centric solutions. Every day, you see our military everywhere. Military and the security forces cannot solve our problems. What will solve our problems is government to provide basic amenities. That's why we have kinetic and non-kinetic. And we have been embarking on kinetic approaches without yielding results. Then punishment for offenders. Selected sanctions and or lack of it for errant big men. Security agents have emboldened unprofessional conduct amongst them. In the face of the uniform impunity, without considering to any form of attack on uniformed personnel, angry Nigerians have on several occasions taken laws into their hands against state agents. There is need for mutually agreed and beneficial disciplinary procedure for errant personnel, both against civilians or sister agencies. The intelligence, all these operations must be intelligence driven, so there must be sufficient intelligence. Then there must be an all-inclusive leadership. Today, Nigeria needs an all-inclusive leadership that will not only carry everyone along, but must be seen to be doing so irrespective of religious or ethnic leanings. The polarization along ethnic, regional, and religious lines has reached its peak, and these are dangerous indicators. Leaders at all levels must first of all see Nigeria as their region and tribe, and afterwards pursue genuine programs that reconcile all Nigerians and give them their tribe. Rule of law are more equal than others. The more equal ones can be compared with the Nigerian offenders, lawbreakers or criminals operating with impunity, both in the forest, highways, uncompleted buildings, as well as exalted public and private sector offices, whose actions and inactions create pains for the ordinary Nigerians. The rule of law must be activated without any form of biases and or compromises to ensure that criminals, no matter from where they operate, must be brought to justice. Then tinkering with our laws. Some of our laws are very, very old. They need to be reviewed and updated. Then the centralization of our security structure. I've said this times without number. The Nigerian police force as it is now as lead agency cannot effectively police Nigeria. We need to decentralize, and I have been an advocate of the state police that's bringing security closer to the people. There must be funding. Government is also trying without, sounding immodest. Government, at least this year, we had the largest budget for security, but how is it going to be used and effectively mobilized? Now, national dialogue. So many attempts have been made by different governments in this direction, but such were presumably not sincere enough, and as such, nothing came out of them. As a country with multiple cultures, tribes, and religious beliefs, it is evident that the 1999 Constitution, as amended, is no longer sustainable. We must confront the reality and be able to discuss honestly on how to coexist peacefully. Activities of media, advocacy groups, and non-governmental organizations. When government has done its part, the media has a duty to encourage security operations. Patriotism should guide media reporting, except where absolutely necessary. They ought to avoid negative reporting and needless criticality of the system, as it emboldens violent extremists rather than demoralize them. Violent extremists should be denied all forms of support, not even media coverage, if it were possible. In conclusion, in general terms, the war against insecurity has not been very successful, and every Nigerian should share in this blame. The patronage of local vigilante groups, hunters, as well as formation of regional security outfits, seeming lone choice of amnesty or dialogue with criminals who are still unrepentant and hold the same hostage for no genuine reasons or cause are evidences of failing and overwhelmed security system. However, there's no gainsaying that the military and other security agencies have put up a good fight against insecurity in Nigeria, but a lot can still be achieved. The search for security solutions must move away from rhetoric to implementation of standard and measurable plans. Identify innovative ideas, among others, aimed at fostering lasting solutions to the plethora of challenges facing our nation. I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Barrister Mike Ejiofor, for this highly thought-provoking presentation. Of course, you have done justice to the different aspects of the topic itself, beginning with the slight amendment to the title of your presentation, which has been well noted. I think you gave us a very succinct introduction, the evolution of the state of the Nigerian security, how we got to where we are now. This historical perspective is very useful to begin to look at what are the possible, ways to get out of it. Among the factors you listed, corruption, which I think we're very familiar with it now. Corruption, whether it's financial corruption, moral corruption, in all its ramifications, injustice and inequity, electoral fraud, faulty leadership, poverty, foreign and local subversive activities, lack of strong institutions, religious and ethnic divides, tribalism, and nepotism. So these are all recurring factors that have kept us struggling even as a nation, and which are now impacting negatively the state of security or insecurity in the country. It's also very, gladdening to see that in looking at the way forward, you again touch on the key points, quite many of them that you presented. I will just mention a few. Patriotism and political will. Yeah, the political will is what we are being used to now when we know government does not want to do the right thing. There's no political will. But every leader is supposed to be accountable to the followers, and there must be the will to do the will of the majority of the people who are the followers. Corruption has to be reduced. You said official corruption. Maybe in the interaction you can clarify what you mean by official corruption and not the total corruption. Technology-driven governance. And the point is, what about accountability? As we're using technology, are we also accountable to the people? Motivation of field operatives very important, because if you don't get the human capital involved, you will not get the desired results. So I won't go through all the points you've made, but they are quite rich presentation. I know our co-participants are eagerly waiting to also make their own contributions. If they want to make a comment, if they would like to ask a question, they are free to do so. Barrister Mike has actually underspent his budget. He finished within 30 minutes. So we have more time for the interactions. So thank you so much, Barrister Mike, for this.
Thank
Now
you.
let's turn it over now to our co-participants. Whoever would like to ask a question or make comment, please indicate, and we will unmute you. Or if you would like to post a question in the chat, please do so. Okay, whilst we are waiting for comments, okay, somebody has raised his hand, and that is Ibrahim Bello. Okay, I will unmute him.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
That was a wonderful presentation. Thanks for that. I believe I learned a lot.
Please introduce yourself, your name, and maybe.
Okay, my name is Ibrahim Mohamed Bello, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
A petty public servant based in Abuja.
Please go ahead.
Okay, sir. My question is on the militarization of the nation. What's the way forward? Because in the 36, or can I say 37 state of Nigeria today, there is no state that doesn't have military on IS, on internal security. One. Two, of recent, it has gone beyond police. You see some top shots who are not entitled moving around with military personnel. Like today, I saw one on my way to the airport. The Air Force guys mounting the gate were very smart, so they stopped requesting who the person was, only for us to realize somebody in three-quarter with 4 soldiers. So I don't know, they picked them up. That's one. And on the second aspect, on the area, can I say the DSS? So what is happening to our intelligence gathering? Because when growing up back in the village, we have what they call CID. They'll say, this man is a CID, he behaved like a madman, he arrests people. Recently, I think there is an accusation. The governor of Zamfara said that bandits who were arrested, though it's not proven, were released in Abuja. So what's the way forward on it? Particularly looking the security aspect. And on the political aspect, we can see, I'm very sorry, but I have to go there. Our policymakers are not interested in the safety of the nation. If you look at what is happening in Kano and Rivers today, in Kano, we have the military, a whole company of soldiers are guiding the deposed emir, or rather one of the emirs in contention. When the NSA was asked, he said he's not aware. The president is not aware. And I'm 100% sure the chief of army staff on his own cannot deploy a whole company of soldiers to be guiding someone without authorization from somewhere. And if you look at the rivers today, the IG blocked the local government. Is it the interim caretaker chairman? If it was done all over the nation, that is fair. But why Rivers State? Why? Why interest in that particular aspect? How can we sort that out? That's my question. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for your questions and your comments. On the militarization of Nigeria, it is now obvious that our security police is the lead agency in maintenance of law and order in the country. But the police is overwhelmed, and police is under-equipped, understaffed, underfunded, and the little they are given is mismanaged. These are Nigerians too. So it's not peculiar to the police. So that's why the military is there. And like you said, I'm surprised too that sometimes now you see some military escorting politicians. In our days, we only see military men in uniform when they're on holiday, and they come to the village and you see them with their clothes ironed very well, and we begin to say becomes an envy of the people. But now it's no more the same. Then on intelligence gathering, well, I wouldn't, without sounding immodest, I don't think we have. There was a paper I presented last month ago on this intelligence gathering. Intelligence is not lacking in Nigeria. But the fact is that the action agencies don't have the capacity to deal with the situation. I'll give you an example. If, for instance, they say there's going to be a kidnap, or there's going to be a mass kidnap, or there's going to be an incident in a particular place, the police doesn't have the vehicle to move. And when, at times, that's why you see the SSS and the military carrying out separate operations without the police, because they don't have the manpower. You go to some stations, you have only one person. So how do you blame them? Then the major question you ask is like what is happening in Rivers and Kano. I can tell you, without missing words and without looking back, that 80% of Nigerian problems are politically generated. And once this is done, because they don't have the interest of the country at heart, they have their personal interest. Tell me, why on earth would you be sponsoring somebody to come and take over from you if you don't have anything to hide? And it has never worked. I trace from Anambra, where you have Ngige. All the people they have put back to power never obey them. And yet they will continue to insist on bringing people back to power. That's what is happening in Rivers. Politicians have refused to learn, and they will continue to put it. That's why I say in my paper, lack of political leadership. If they have the interest of this country at heart, we won't be talking about this. But what they have is their personal interest. It doesn't matter to them whether Nigeria is existing or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barrister. I think Ibrahim has a follow-up question on the farmer header. So Ibrahim, can you go ahead, please?
Okay, sir. Good evening once more. Hello?
Yeah, good evening.
Go ahead.
Okay, sir. Let me go to my terrain. Being a Fulani headsman, once you mention other farmer, people automatically put us on the defensive. Yes, sir, that's the truth. But I remember very well in 2014, there was a conference which was held in Kaduna, I think Hotel 17, coordinated by the then NSA Dasuki. There was a report on this transhumance banditry in West Africa and some part of Central Africa. There was a report. I know that one very well because I attended it fully. When the report was ready for implementation, but unfortunately, Jonathan didn't scale through. Buhari came in, and knowing the political situation, the report was just abandoned. Now that the former NSA Monguno finishes, yes, why can't we just dust it up? Or maybe, sir, I think you know some people there. Why can't we just dust up that report and look into it? I remember very well Colonel Bello Fadile was there. Now the present, is it Director of Corporate Service or Information of the NSS office, Zachary Mijinyawa too was there. And a lot of people. There was a comprehensive report on that. I think this cross-stealing crisis in Berlin-Gwari axis, Southern Kaduna, all were captured, but I don't know what happened to the report. Is it the Nigeria factor or what, sir? Maybe from the security cycle, they can redust it up and represent.
Yeah. If you recall what I said in my lecture, we are not lacking in solutions in this country. What we are lacking is the willpower, political willpower to implement those things that have been recommended. Now, you talk about the Fulani herdsmen. Unfortunately, I'm one of the people, the question is, before this time, the Fulani herders and the farmers have been coexisting. We don't have time, but let me just rush to this and tell you that the people doing the kidnapping are not the herders. I can tell you that on authority because I had an experience. I was a victim of kidnap, and when I was kidnapped, the people who kidnapped me were actually Fulani, but they were not herders. And among them, you have the locals who are working with them. You have military men, soldiers who were with them. So this thing might not likely end. But unfortunately, everybody is grouped as Fulani herders, but they are not. And I can tell you that the government has all the solutions, just the political will to go and implement and dust out those papers. Thank you.
Thank you, Barrister. We have Nelson Suolola has raised his hand.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Barrister Nelson Suolola. I'm calling from Lagos. Let me start by thanking you for a well-presented paper. It's thought-provoking. You are bold, not only in the presentation, but even in some of your assertions. Thank you very much. Now, the issue is this. More often than not, you see some of the embassies in Nigeria giving security advisory information to their citizens in Nigeria. Don't go to so and so place, don't do this. And more often than not, some of those security breaches will come to play, which still borders to the issue of intelligence and the information gathering. It's like we are not doing enough in that area. I'm happy somebody referred to what we used to call a CID in those days. I mean, my father was a police officer, and I know how well respected CIDs were. But we seem to have lost that. Is it not high time that we start thinking of either outsourcing or inviting some friendly nations to come and, tinker with our security architecture? What do you think?
Yeah, thank you very much. If you look at my profile, I joined the Nigeria police, from where I went to special branch. Special branch was the branch or the department people mistake for CID. That's special branch. We have criminal investigation department, which is involved in criminalities, not crimes against the state. But special branch was dedicated to crimes against the state. You talk about subversion, espionage, sabotage, terrorism. These are crimes against the state, which is distinct from maybe robbery or housebreaking and all that. Now, we have not deviated from that, and there's no need for rejigging. What we need is collaboration, training, and this buying of modern technological equipment. And these are capital intensive. Every day you hear money has been approved for security. Unfortunately, I say it openly. If you go to that appropriation, you ask what percentage is released to the security agencies. The National Assembly will be there in the name of oversight, collect almost 30% of that allocation, and the people manning the leadership of the agencies too are Nigerians. Before they buy things, possibly buy substandard items, the money is finished. So corruption is the bane of our society, and we must tackle it. If we don't tackle corruption in this country, corruption will kill Nigeria, God forbid. That is just the truth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any more?
Yeah, I see somebody asking of a copy of the lecture. Yeah, I think it can be distributed to participants.
Yeah, thank you, Barrister. So if you are interested, just DM me, I will send it to you. We want to honor those who have been able to attend this in person. So we won't post this on the WhatsApp for everybody. All right, if you are interested, just let me know. You get a copy. All right, thank you. Any more comments or questions? We're about to wrap up now. Oh, okay. Barrister Mike, I have a question which
Yes.
you touched upon, the practicality of the state police
Yes.
as compared to state policing or community policing, given the fact that our governors, state governors, are almost like kings or emperors these days. So what should we do if we're going to have a state police and insulate it from the almighty influence of the governors who are behaving like kings?
Yeah. You see, that has been the fear of people, especially those people who are against the creation of state police. Now, state police should have boundaries. They should be involved in provision of intelligence because they know the community. And if any governor abuses your right, the courts are there. The courts are there for you to go and seek redress. People will compare it, actually, but they are not the same. People will come and tell you that, look at the State Independent Electoral Commission. There are different things. These people sit down and write results. But criminality against an individual, against the state, is well known to everybody. Look at what is happening in Ondo State. Before this program started, I was watching news. They have prosecuted 600 cases, arrests made, because they know the terrain. A situation where you take somebody from Maiduguri and send to Bayelsa or Warri, for instance. First of all, you have problem of language, cultural differences, religious differences. Before the person is, acclimatizes and gets used to it, he's transferred. But with the local police, they get this information, liaise with the federal police, and give them the information to work with. I think that's the best way to. We must localize. Our problem is our security challenges are local. The solutions must be local. Because what is happening in the Southeast, for instance, if you use IPOB, you don't use solution for IPOB to go and fight Boko Haram. They don't have the same aims. They don't have the same objectives. So you must localize the solution to our national problems.
Thank you, Barrister.
Thank you.
Any more from the audience? Okay, let me squeeze one in because if a problem persists without solution, perhaps those who are involved in providing solution are part of the problem. So from your experience, the bandits or the kidnappers may be Fulanis, but they are not herders. But more importantly, they also have collaborators from among the uniform personnel like army or even police. What do you think is the way around this? Because if the security personnel who are supposed to be part of the solution are now involved, how do we get into it? Though you said it might be difficult to solve, but what do you think we can do?
Well, it still comes down to political problems. Because what is happening now is that you see political talks being sponsored into the security agencies, only for them to be recruited and sent back to them. And once they are not sent to them as orderlies and escorts, they go into the field to make money under the uniform. So we need to properly vet and screen prospective members of the security. In the SSS, I'm not saying we don't have such elements. But before you are employed in the SSS, there's what we call vetting, that you must know your background from when you were born till when you are going to be employed. But in other agencies, it's not like, but the military, before you finish your training in the military to become an officer, of course, you'll be fished out, except for the rank and file that are also not be sponsored by politicians. So that's where the problem is. We need to screen our prospective agents.
Yeah, and in fact, that leads to the current brouhaha between the Police Service Commission and the IGP regarding
exactly.
It's rather unfortunate that we're having this kind of open, embarrassing situation. There should be professionalism in selection of talents, whether in the police or in the army. But if corruption has already eaten so deep that we cannot even make the right decision on who the right person is, then we have a lot of work to do to get this nation to be on the right track. Okay, thank you so much, Barrister Mike Ejiofor.
Thank you.
We have spent almost 1 hour now. The topic has been very interesting, and you have done real justice to it. You gave us a very, detailed evolution of our problem in security, all the factors that have contributed to bring us to where we are, chief of which is actually corruption, which has led to so many things going wrong. And next to that is political will to do the right thing. Leaders are supposed to do the right thing. If you're a leader, you must be accountable to the people. You must face consequences of your action. We are lacking that, and so our problems are deepening. The way forward, we have fully noted. Again, having the political will to do it right, and of course, reducing corruption. Thank you so much, Barrister, Mike Ejiofor. We are glad to have you. For those who are interested in having a copy, please indicate in the chat you are interested, and I can get it across to you. Somebody has already indicated, so if others are interested, or I should just take it that all those who are here now are interested, and then they will get a copy of the paper. Thank you so much. It's 1 hour now, and we would like to bring this PEEF virtual talk to a close until June, when we'll be taking another topic, which will be on the budget implementation.